In connection with the ancient Israelites, Jehovah also proved that he is able to protect his people from sicknesses. And he did it when the Israelites remained faithful. Deuteronomy 7:15 foretold in connection with those who escaped from Egypt, Jehovah will take away from you all sickness, and he will not bring upon you any of the terrible diseases that you have known in Egypt. We can trust that Jehovah fulfilled his promise. He did so when the Israelites were faithful. He blessed the Israelites with good health and long life. This shows his past love for the people of Israel. It also indicates his power, and that if he wishes to repeat this miracle, he can do it, of course. He will do so after Armageddon, during the millennium, or 1,000-year reign of Christ.
We're watching governing body member Gerrit Lösch giving the talk "No Resident Will Say I Am Sick" at the 2021 annual meeting, which was on October 2nd, 2021. And his essential argument is Jehovah's Witnesses can look forward to having all sickness removed after Armageddon, because that's what happened to the Israelites in the Bible. I don't really think you can point to that as proof. It's kind of circular reasoning, isn't it? To say, the Bible promises this, therefore this is what we can all expect. And we know that the Bible wouldn't lie to us. We know that everything in the Bible is true because the Bible says that everything in the Bible is true. I'm sorry, it's just not a valid basis for making such a sweeping claim. And when you think about it, what Gerrit Lösch is saying is really quite messed up.
In connection with the ancient Israelites, Jehovah also proved that he is able to protect his people from sicknesses. And he did it when the Israelites remained faithful.
He did it when the Israelites remained faithful. If you're faithful to me, if you follow me, if you allow yourself to be enslaved to me and obey everything I ask you to do, I'll stop you from getting sick. If you're unfaithful to me, you're going to get sick and you're going to die. I don't find that particularly endearing, do you? What was all that in the New Testament about loving your enemies? You know, when I think about some of the most horrid individuals I've encountered, I don't want them to get sick. You know, I may have my disagreements with them. I may feel very strongly against them. But that doesn't mean I'm thinking, just wait until you get sick. That seems to be the mentality of God, according to what Gerrit Lösch is saying. And Gerrit even alludes to a verse without reading it, Deuteronomy 7:15. Let's actually look up Deuteronomy 7, and we'll read 15 and 16. Jehovah will take away from you all sickness. Oh, that's nice. And he will not bring upon you any of the terrible diseases that you have known in Egypt. Instead, he will bring them upon all those who hate you. He's going to use biological warfare against your enemies. Oh, fantastic. You are to destroy all the peoples whom Jehovah your God gives over to you. You must not feel sorry for them, and you must not serve their gods, because that would be a snare to you. It's just so messed up. They're not just, or the Bible isn't just calling for genocide, and we know how this verse is supposed to have ended out with the conquest of the Promised Land and a genocidal rampage in which all peoples, all original inhabitants had to be slaughtered or move out. That was bad enough, but you also have this verse telling the Israelites how they should feel or not feel. You must not feel sorry for them. You're not allowed to have certain emotions when all of this happens. if you have the wrong emotions, if you have the wrong thoughts in your head, if there are the wrong electrochemical signals flashing through your brain, when all of this happens, you'll be unfaithful. And we know what happens to people who are unfaithful. They're going to get sick and die.
Death is really an enemy, but Jehovah will do away with it. At Isaiah 33:24, it says that in the new world, quote, no resident will say, I am sick. There will be no hospitals. There will be no drugstores. There will be no physicians. There will be no professional nurses. In Revelation 21:4, it foretells that in the new world there will be neither mourning, nor outcry, nor pain anymore. We are very sad about what happened around the world with so many of our brothers and sisters falling asleep from COVID-19 recently, but we know they will come back. They will come back healthy. They will not come back looking like old people. Even if they died at 80 years, they might look like they are in their 30s when resurrected. As stated earlier, they will look reasonably similar to their original body, so that they will be recognized by their loved ones. How it fills our hearts with love for Jehovah that he will bring back in the resurrection our loved ones.
It's like the more Gerrit Lösch tries to look as though he cares, the more it's obvious that he doesn't care, isn't it? How do you watch this as a Jehovah's Witness and find Gerrit Lösch remotely convincing, given the weight of the subject he's chosen to talk about? He should have steered well clear of this if he's unable to show any kind of empathy or any kind of sincerity when he's talking on such a grave subject as this, on the subject of death in the context of COVID. And I found it fascinating when he was talking about physicians and doctors.
There will be no hospitals. There will be no drugstores. There will be no physicians. There will be no professional nurses.
Well, it's just as well, since you're dissuading people from higher education, isn't it, Gerrit Lösch? You're quite happy to reap the fruits of higher education when it comes to bringing in Bethelites who can be nurses in Bethel. You're happy to receive medical care from those who have spent years expanding their knowledge on human anatomy and on medicine so that you can benefit from that, all the while dissuading young people from pursuing higher education in the publications. In fact, there's even a video, thumbnail here if Tibor is gracious, where Gerrit Lösch bemoans higher education, I think at a branch visit in Canada, if memory serves. So this is a man who likes to have it both ways, isn't it? This is a man who's happy to use higher education or the knowledge resulting from higher education when it suits him. But just think of all the Jehovah's Witnesses who could have been doctors and nurses, who could have been producing vaccines that could save Jehovah's Witness lives, who aren't doing those things because they've listened to him and his colleagues over the years. And as for that expression of sadness regarding COVID deaths, bear in mind this organization has been suffering fatalities from COVID disproportionately. We have a document here which Tibor will show if he's gracious. Announcement September 22nd, 2021. Granted, this is for the Philippines. So these figures are for the Philippines. You'll notice where it says, this brings us to a total of 7,193 COVID-19 cases and 508 deaths among our brothers and sisters as of September 17th, 2021, these figures indicate that the ratio of deaths among the brothers is even higher than among the general population. I've referred to this document before. Granted, we're talking here about the Philippines, but I don't think the picture is all that different when we're talking globally. 20,000 Jehovah's Witnesses is a lot for a religion numbering only 8.5 million. So really there's some explaining to do here. How is it that an organization that is gloating about its handling regarding COVID is disproportionately losing members on account of COVID? What's gone wrong? There's no attempt to offer an explanation in this document. I've not heard of any attempt at an explanation from the governing body. And in that context, you have a governing body member, Gerrit Lösch, expressing sadness, but doing so in an utterly uncompelling way. I'm not seeing a man who is remotely sincere about this. And I appreciate many of you will be saying, oh, lay off poor old Gerrit. English isn't his first language. I'm sure he does really genuinely feel sadness. He's just struggling to show it. Well, let's remember, Gerrit Lösch is arguably conspicuous among governing body members when it comes to his ability to emote on camera.
The leader of the separated group, Brother Albu, said, let's do it, because if we don't do it now, we may never have another opportunity again. And so the decision was made. It doesn't happen every day that 5,000 brothers come back to the organization. Worldwide, some 20,000 of our brothers and sisters died so far from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are very sad about what happened around the world with so many of our brothers and sisters falling asleep from COVID-19 recently, but we know they will come back.
What an interesting contrast. It seems Gerrit can get all emotional. He can emote perfectly when he's talking about people coming back to the organization, coming under the control of the organization. He can get all teary when he's talking about that. But when it comes to actual deaths, 20,000 actual deaths from COVID, and bear in mind he's using these statistics as an excuse to control people. That's the whole reason he's talking about death and sickness in this talk. It's to remind Jehovah's Witnesses that his organization, the organization he and his colleagues are leading, is the only answer. He's exploiting tragedy and grief and leveraging tragedy and grief to expand his control and expand his influence. But when it comes to actually talking about death, about the death of Jehovah's Witnesses, look how cold and unmoved he is. Is it any wonder that Gerrit Lösch and the rest of the governing body members have such a hard time caring about the safety of children and about the damage being wrought through their shunning policies when they can't even get emotional when talking about 20,000 dead Jehovah's Witnesses?